So I come with about 25 years of industry experience, and I've sort of my charter within Tetify is to grow the India, SAARC, and the Middle East market, and take forward some of these solutions which complement with AVAYA into those markets. So looking forward to having a very wonderful chat with you. Over to you, Jaideep.
Yeah, hi Utkarsh, hi Sinu, and hi Walter. Let me introduce one by one. Sinu, Matthew is account manager sales with Avaya, and then we have Walter Menezes. Walter Menezes has industry experience of around 25 years in the field of IT. Hi Walter,
Hi.
and he is country head for Tetherfy, and that is a part of Avaya ecosystem. And then we have Utkarsh with us. Utkarsh is head of information security and data privacy office. Uh, he's a researcher and social worker, skilled in CISSP and CISA, certified professional with more than 15 years experience in information security governance, risk and compliance. He has an expertise on handling technical risk assessments on various infrastructure and applications for BFSI organizations. Then he has successfully designed and handled vendor ODC, offshore development centers. So that is one of his expertise. And then he is good in readiness security audits and handled external third-party security audits. Uh, I think that it is long list for Utkarsh. Will go further and keep on discussing in between about the expertises. And I hand it over to Walter to take it forward.
Yeah. So good afternoon, Utkarsh. Once again, welcome to this session where we get to exchange and hear your thought leadership ideas on the area of security. And we all know now with work from home, which was once upon a time a concept 3, 4 years back, has become the way of life today. And that has brought forth with it its own challenges. And one of the primary challenges around it is the security. And having gone through various security incidences that have happened in the past 1 year that you read about in the press, you come to know that one of the largest causes of threats is a negligent insider within the organization. Just as a data point, out of 5,000 incidents which have happened, close to about two-thirds of the compromises which have happened is because of a negligent insider. So, given this sort of unintentional, inadvertent issues that may have been caused by an employee, but which can severely dent an organization, where do you see CISOs like yourself, prioritizing the whole 9 yards of security within your organization?
Well, um, the first thing we have to understand is, we have to keep the people aware, and for that we have to introduce programs, and we keep doing that. It can include, phishing related campaigns. It can include, NHOs, that is when new joiners are trained, and it has to be kept updated, and scores are kept updated, and yearly refresher sessions should happen. So all those things are already known to the industry, and that's an integral part of it. So but that's not enough in the present age, because the kind of threats that are out there, um, and the home workers are exposed to those kind of threats more often than when they're working from office. So we have to put more security controls there. uh, Having said that, I would first say that people should understand the value of data classification. So that is where we should go next. uh, during all of the sessions that we have with our employees, and the training that we give them, or the empowerment that we give them, we should also explain to them that data information intelligence, uh, intellectual property, personally identifiable information, and client data, these are the most valuable assets to an organization, as compared to any other assets that we have. which might include, tangible items like laptops, like servers, like the whole network infrastructure itself and the network devices in them, or even the, support workforce, even the physical premises, all of it taken together. The whole purpose is to secure the data that passes through it. It is stored there or it is processed there. Only three possibilities. So we have to make it more data centric instead of, the infrastructure centric. That is the first thing we should move towards. So that is what we are also trying to do with the work from home scenario as well. And as we know, the network controls are completely missing at home. So one way of doing it is, what we are trying is to, shift the network controls as much as possible towards the host systems. That is whatever available on the systems, like, a firewall, if you have an HIPS, those kind of things, and, centrally managed, of course. So that is the way we are looking at it. And, we are also, apart from, appraising the employees, the end users, that they should look at these aspects, we are also uh, trying to explain that, data security cannot be in silos. So we can't consider data security as one part of security, and, then infrastructure security, then administrative control separately. It does not really work that way. Data security really comes as the inner layer of the onion, and, it can't be considered separate. So that is the way we are working on this, and, we are trying to reshape our policies as well as our technology in that manner.
And,
Mm.
and quite a few thoughts that you shared around the data classification part, and bringing the distinction that it's not only about the tangible assets, but your intellectual property and your client data are very key, important assets that an organization owns. So, what in your views could be typical impacts that an organization could have, in case uh, this data security or the infrastructure security is sort of not being addressed by organizations today in a comprehensive manner. In your view, what could be the possible impact that an organization could invite to its own brand or to its own contracts with its client?
Well, we should definitely consider penalties and brand value, and, the actual loss of data, instead of, in event of a breach, instead of considering, what physical asset was compromised. Even if you see all the news, since the past few decades, it's all data centric. Finally, a breach is data centric, and people just fail to understand that till it really happens. So we are trying to classify assets according to data, and, the data, as I said earlier, that, the data that passes through it, or is processed through it, or is stored there. So obviously, encryption definitely is very important. And after considering the penalties and brand value, so, for example, what method of encryption is used, and what's the way of obfuscation we are using for the data, or various other factors, various other controls. So now, if we don't prioritize in this manner, then what happens is, all the security investment we do is allocated to the wrong assets. For example, assets that contain a database, but have we seen that, what's the value of the data in that database? No, we are just seeing the volume of data. So those kind of things have to be, relooked upon in this new scenario, because when people are working from home, they are accessing through their secured laptop through an insecure network. So they're not always connected to VPN. So once the data is on their system, you can't say what's happening.
Very rightly said,
Yeah.
in fact, Utkarsh, that you should allocate your IT security budgets to the right assets, right? And one of the assets, it's become a must-have, is now the end devices that the people, your employees are using working from home. And the two dominant end devices is one is a company provided laptop and second is a mobile phone. So if I just categorize these as smart devices, you already see, so these two smart devices are the dominant devices. So how do you see, data security going to be deployed across these two dominant devices, which employees use for their day-to-day work while working from home?
Okay, now, okay. Firstly, I would finish my last point, because I
Sure.
am a data privacy officer also,
Okay.
personal data. So there are PII aspects as well. So we also have to consider, when we talk about fines and penalties, and where the control should be actually placed, depending on value of the data. We also have to see where the personal data resides, and what GDPR or other personal data privacy compliances are required for that asset or that project on which that employee is working on. And further, it might elevate the priority of protecting that physical asset or that laptop or whatever it is. So now, coming to how people are working from home or what devices they're using, including having smart devices at the home as well simultaneously. So now one is the company laptop. Obviously, we'll try to secure it with all kinds of controls which are centrally managed, and now we have to move it towards cloud as well. So earlier we had most of the solutions were on-prem. In view of security, we were actually keeping most things on-prem wherever possible and avoiding cloud. But now, actually, it has become a risk, and you have to shift investment, and even let go earlier investment. It's a very difficult phase for the budgets here. So in our case also, we have been shifting to cloud based solutions, so that visibility and the delay is avoided in being the visibility in we would lose visibility, and then just a few minutes are required for things to happen.
Yeah.
So now, in that whole view, SOAR also gets involved, that is security orchestration and automation. And so now that's the biggest challenge actually, to have SOAR to be centrally controlled as well as uh, effectively working on end devices. So it requires a always connected situation. And why I mentioned SOAR and why I mention other technologies is that when you're working from home, uh, as I said, there are smart devices which are not very secure, or it's still an evolving field where most smart devices are not having security controls in them. So the controls on our end user device should have either containerization, in where completely you avoid uh, uh, data flows out of that container, and that container is like a virtual extension of the actual organization's premises. So there's a lot of control there, or you shift to Citrix or VDI kind of environments. Wherever possible, we have been suggesting that to various of our clients, especially BFSI and PII related uh, clients. So I hope that.
Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, Utkarsh,
Mm.
given the fact that as a third-party outsourcing services
Mm.
provider to multiple clients across multiple verticals, across multiple contracts, you will have so many sort of security compliances to adhere to, so on and so forth. And like you rightly said, you sort of started moving endpoints to the cloud. You're looking at having endpoint security. You're looking at SOAR. You're looking at XDR solutions, and you're trying to do something around zero trust security, so that you take care of all of these things. Now, all of these things are a lot of investments, right? Even if you're trying to move away from a firewall, and then you'll have to look at, just like you spoke about, container-based security, VM-based security, your access-based security on the cloud, and then you have endpoint security, and all of these things being orchestrated by a source solution. These are a whole lot of investments in data security solutions. So what is your view? because it's a bottomless pit. Do you think these investments in data security will ever pay for itself, or it's an insurance that we just have to buy with no visibility of the benefits?
Well, definitely, as the way we started, I always consider data as the primary asset of an organization, whichever it is, unless it's completely manufacturing one which has no secrets, which generally does not happen, or no patents or no intellectual property, all the designs are known to the world, then it's different. But when it comes now, they're exposed to other risks. For example, industrial control systems, we know all that, but that's a different. We're not discussing that right now. So when it comes to data security, we know that certain kinds of organizations are more exposed, especially service level organizations which give service to various multiple clients. So yes, investing in data security and the things like having DLP, data classification, and AI based behavior analysis, or predictive analysis of behavior, those kind of things definitely will pay off in the long run. And it will save not only the cost of having physical human resources on the ground, a large number of them. So we would save there, as well as we will save a lot of time and a lot of triaging of usual procedural work. So definitely, we require a lot of investment towards data security, and it will pay off.
Yeah, and while it's a very difficult element to quantify in terms of the board, I think once a compromise happens is where everybody realizes the value of security. Having said that, one of the challenges faced by a lot of CISOs like yourself is the diverse amount of vendors which are available in the marketplace. Right? You have a Zscaler who work with a CrowdStrike to give you an end-to-end zero trust security. You have Palo Alto, you have Checkpoint, you have the likes of McAfee. Uh, and each one of them is sort of talking about incorporating AI in their solutions, so on and so forth. So if you have to have a very high level approach to security in terms of what should be my vendor vendor shortlisting approach in terms of what do I need to, which vendor should I use typically for addressing my security landscape, right? Because you have, like you said, VDI based end users, you have thick laptop based end users, you have solutions in the data center, you have solutions in the cloud. So at a very high level, if you have to just look at some sort of a map of security that you want to create for a typical organization like yourself, which is into multiple services across multiple clients, what would be your approach when it comes to having solutions from different vendors in the marketplace?
This is a very difficult question because, um, well, it contains many parameters. Okay, the one priority will be obviously the technology should be updated that we are talking about, or the process or workflow it provides. That is for sure. Secondly, it should be okay. It should provide controls over itself. I'll try to explain that. Um, Now we have AI in one place, which is a necessary evil.
Yes.
Why I'm calling it an evil is very important, because I'm a personal data privacy officer as well, and there are other aspects. So when you're collecting behavioral data from your employees, there is a consent which should be involved. And okay, you got the consent, but then there are more aspects. There are aspects like how the data is being retained, for how long, what are the uses it's being brought to, and lastly, um, is there any automated decision making using that behavioral data. So these are all individual issues that are actually very real, especially in European countries. So if I'm doing business with European clients, So I have to address this, whatever AI or no AI I'm using. And especially when, I'm processing for their employees. For example, I'm their system integrator, or, I'm monitoring their network. That's the contract. Or I'm doing their SOC work. So then I have actually a lot of their data, and, not only data, but behavioral data, which gives a deep insight into how each employee works, when are they away, and, many aspects that I won't mention right now. So um, so that is where, we have to also focus, because we have to draw a line, uh, and I mean, there is a line to be drawn. Otherwise we
Certainly.
can fall into more fines and penalties. At the other end, it is definitely enabling. It is a necessary evil, as I said. And it's going to save us a lot of inconvenience. And the people who are not really physically visible or connected to our physical network, we will have actually real insights into, you know uh, we'll have a baseline in the manner their networks are acting, or their uh, they behave, or the systems they access, or, the internet sites they usually go to, so that we know we can separate the unusual behavior once we have a baseline. So definitely, I mean, this is really required, but with a lot of control.
So yeah, and like you rightly said, so AI can be an evil if not sort of moderated and used in the right way,
Mm.
because it can lead to severe other implications, and hence benchmarking certain amount of which to what extent you want to implement AI in some of your processes in terms of data security, privacy is going to be a very important question that a lot of CISOs will have to deliberate on before sort of adopting some of these AI-based algorithms in their security solutions. So we spoke, Utkarsh, about a lot of things that what could do around the entire data, securing the data, securing the infrastructure, securing the applications, and all your employees are currently working from home, either from thin clients or from thick clients, which you provided as an organization. But one element that you see about people working from offices, you have a surveillance camera to monitor them at several locations. You have restrictions around not carrying physical devices like your mobile phones to the desk and so on and so forth. Now this is possible within an office environment because that's the way you're supposed to start executing the work, or that's the way you're supposed to execute work the moment you switch on your laptop in the office. Now that this laptop has moved from the office to the home, uh, how are you taking care of these physical physical security aspects? So you've taken care of the infosec part of it, the IT part of it, but how do you take care of the physical security part of it? Whether this particular employee is sort of not taking a mobile phone and sort of clicking something from the screen. You have disabled screen snapshot, but then you're using a mobile phone, or whether there is somebody peeping over the shoulders to look at the data, which that person is not supposed to look. So, what are your thoughts around that? How do you see that affecting data security?
Well, I mean, whatever I will mention here, I don't know whether it should be considered in the limits of ethics, but there are technologies I've heard of. Um, I won't say I'm very keen to evaluate them right now. I'm not sure, but things like camera-based AI is also available currently, and behavior analysis of like, for example, keyboard identification, keyboard fingerprinting, you can say, the way a person types on a keyboard. So I'm sure, I think many of my employees also might be doing it, that they have only one laptop at home, which incidentally is only the office laptop. So off office hours or during lunchtime, they might have given the password to their family members, right? And they must have told you can only browse these websites, or misuse of assets, basically. At the same time, they also have access to all the data on the disk. even though they have been told to do something specific, but it can always be misused. It can be looked into, even if not copied. So those aspects are always there. As you said, I am understanding the angle, and there can be friends at home and all that. So one thing is keyboard based behavior analytics, and the other is camera based AI. I'm not sure how mature or how available they are currently, and whether they should be even considered at all or not. So that's a different matter altogether. Then lastly, we can have timeouts, timeouts or re-authentication, or 3FA, wherein we get the third factor of what the person actually is, like biometrics, which cannot be copied. So from time to time re-authentication has to be done. But now if the employee has colluded with outsiders, or company people who are not employee of the company, then it becomes a big challenge, using the camera phone, for example. So I'm not sure. I mean, whether camera phone EMF can be monitored through the laptop or not. Whether it comes in proximity or not. There is something called glint detection. You can detect the glint, the shine, specific to cameras, lenses. So all those things are there. It's possible, but there are many false positives also possible. And again, I said, ethics are involved. I don't know where is the line. So
True,
I don't
and
know what I missed. So, yeah.
so true. This
Yeah.
is depending on how various communities within an organization look at it.
Mm,
The HR team, they will say, "Hey, listen, we are trying to, get into, it's a privacy issue. We cannot be monitoring our people, uh, and then to what level can we sort of, do this sort of monitoring?" But if we just simulate the benefit that is there to the organization as well as to the person, right, who's actually from home. For example, as an extension to this functionality of trying to, like you said, you have an AI-based camera who sort of looks at the mood also of the worker. So today, if you are working from home, there's no way to gauge is the employee feeling okay? Is he not feeling okay? This is something that the moment an employee steps into the office, his supervisor, manager, or his co-worker can immediately look and check. Hey, listen, you don't seem to be looking good. So, do you want to take some time off before you actually get into customer calls or customer engagement transactions? And this is something that if the system is able to do for you in terms of capturing the agent's state of mind and giving a pop-up to the supervisor in the form of an alert saying, "Hey, listen, why don't you just check up on this employee before she actually gets down to working?" And that can be a proactive call that the supervisor can give to the employee. And this is just simulating a typical office scenario, but then virtually by virtue of using some of these uh, outputs that are given by these AI-based solutions. Just to share with you, Avaya and Tethify, we've actually knowing this particular physical security aspect, which is there uh, with with a lot of with a lot of clients of ours are facing, we've actually built this solution for our clients, wherein you sign in using your face. So the biometric part is your face, and that is sort of taken as an authentication. And then after that, depending on what you do with your screen, whether you get a phone in front of you, whether there's somebody over your shoulders, or whether you're not even there in front of your laptop at all, and there is a client data there in front of you. What do you do in that scenario? So all those things, there's no way any InfoSec solution can detect right now. That's where it is just like giving a level of precautionary alerts to the employees, saying, "Hey, listen, we need to be sensitive about these things, so that we don't have a situation in the future wherein the organization will have to pay a price for one negligent employee." So these solutions were having questions around privacy with a lot of departments, but then I think they've accepted it, not as a way of trying to snoop of what people are doing, but just as a way of creating the similar work environment while people are operating from their residences. And that is something that we could sort of discuss in detail with you to understand what could be typical observations around your organization on these sort of concepts. So we've sort of come to the final conclusion of our discussion, but I just want to share, Utkarsh, it's been very insightful on a few points that you actually shared, being a data privacy expert on actually talking about data classification, speaking just beyond infrastructure security with a lot of organization focus on also focusing on your intellectual property security, the secure data of your clients, so on and so forth, and how allocating the right security measures to the right assets. I think that is something that is very important because there is limited budgets at the end of the day. Even though it's a security spend, there is a limited budget, so it's might as well spend it on those aspects of security which will bring the maximum impact to the organization. And then, like you rightly said, AI just it's become the new fad in the industry. It has to be used with caution when you're dealing with your customer processes and customer data. And there should be a good human intervention as well, along with the AI-based system, to ensure there is a seamless operation within the company. Those are the points which I captured. There is something that you would like to summarize, Utkarsh. I sort of leave it to you to sort of just give your thoughts around some of the points that we discussed out.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if I want to give an immediate um, requirement that the industry might have, that requirement would be that, data classification, data tagging, and and creating a data inventory uh, automatically using AI, maybe using the overall organizational central pool of intelligence that is created by the AI itself. Data is learned by data, and more data comes out of it. More intelligence comes out of the data, basically. So then it is applied back to the systems. And that process goes through various cycles of maturity. And then all the data should get tagged within the files, within all end user systems. That is the biggest challenge. If that can happen, then we always know where the data resides, and there can be automated controls that can block certain activities being done with that data. This is the current challenge, isn't it? Even the DLPs cannot fully address many of the aspects.
Exactly.
And the DLPs are not coming packaged with data classifications tools. You have to buy them separately. I don't know for what reason. It is really, I mean, it defies my logic. But those should come together always. So even if you have a data classification tool, making them effective is another question to answer. So I think there it should be our next focus, especially in the work from home scenario.
I would like to thank Utkarsh for so beautiful answers. In fact, you used a very good line in the beginning. You said we look at data in terms of volume and not in terms of its value. And that reminded me a roundtable discussion I was part of 2 days back. And there we were discussing, I was questioned whether data of an organization be valuated and be taken as part of the balance sheet of the organization. What are your views on this? Is it possible? Are we ready to evaluate data of an organization and make it a part of the balance sheet? Can we label each person that you are handling this much value of data? Your seat is valued this much because you are containing this much of value of data every day. Kind of. Where are we in that terms?
Exactly. Actually, it's put in the right terms. From a literary personality like you, it was difficult for me to describe that. But yes, that is what is meant out of all this discussion. And I cannot provide any more insights right now, but we can wait till our next discussion.
Okay. Okay, I think so. So something is happening on this front also, I suppose. Okay, then I had a query from you. Like when we are talking about work from home environment, and I am uh, I am allowed to work from my laptop. I am allowed to work from my mobile on business apps. Now, when I work on my laptop and connect with my business apps, whether on cloud or on premise, I'm doing that in a very controlled manner. Like laptop, I don't have all that my personal apps and all that. But when I move on to mobile and I access business data, and at the same time I have a lot of my personal apps, maybe some games, some things my kid also accessing on his mobile. So does that mobile device, when accessing business data, becomes more vulnerable and brings in more threats to business?
Yeah, well, I mean, that thing has been the solution for this has been around for a while. We are also using that. That's called containerization. So simply, you know, now we term some devices as BYOD and some devices as corporate provided. So even mobiles can be corporate provided or BYOD. Obviously, most organizations don't want to invest in mobiles because mobiles are just for convenience. You know that it's always available and you just read your mail and all that, and not do a full blown business through it. Uh, and you get timely information. Basically, that's the only purpose. So if you install a company controlled container, and so the data remains within the container, even the processing remains within the container, whether whatever else is there on the mobile, nothing goes there, nothing comes back in here. So definitely, I mean, that solution is the best currently, and it is being widely used.
And my last point was AI. AI, is it not going to breach in the privacy of end user? Like AI might go to an extent that you are not working good on the business application today because you fought with your wife twice in the morning, kind of.
Yes, yes, actually, that is what I was trying to say earlier also. That is exactly what's one good example of personal data. That when look, there is difference between data which is processed into information, which is finally processed into intelligence. So
Yeah.
AI's work is not to process data into information, but to process information to intelligence. And intelligence is used for decision making. So I had mentioned very clearly that when it comes to GDPR and such compliances, there is one very important aspect which says that decision making should not be automated. So this is a very typical example of that. And it can create a lot of concerns and lots of issues, and it can go to any extent actually. So
Yeah.
that's very right, and very well said.
Thank you, Utkarsh, for the lovely answers, and thank you, Walter. I mean, you shot very good questions at Utkarsh, and Utkarsh handled them very beautifully. Like I started admiring the depth of knowledge Utkarsh is carrying with him. So, and I think a lot more would be going on security front in your mind and in your organization. So, thank you.